Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. Go a week without being linked to a Chelsea player. Challenge failed again. At least we got to Thursday this week. It's another Chelsea player that we've been linked to. Now, listen, we'll talk about Madueke. We'll talk about other transfer news as well. But listen, it's I don't know what to believe anymore when it comes to Arsenal being linked to Chelsea players. You can say that they're just making things up because they know Arsenal fans will get very mad at it, and everyone is looking for clicks. Maybe it's not true. That could be true, but it's also very hard not to believe it when we've literally been signing Chelsea players for almost 2 decades now. All the way back to William Gallas, and it literally seems every single transfer window we have to sign a player from Chelsea. Now, this time it might not be one, it might be two of them because Kepa, we've already been told that Kepa is basically a done deal from Chelsea to Arsenal. We will sign a backup goalkeeper from Chelsea. Are we going to actually outdo ourselves and have two signings from Chelsea this time round? That would be crazy. I just know things will absolutely go crazy if we actually ended up getting Madueke and Kepa from Chelsea and not get anyone. Unless, listen, maybe people have different opinions. Would you take Madueke from Chelsea as a backup for Saka? Would you do that? Would you be happy with Madueke as a backup for Saka? Do you think people are just overreacting because the Chelsea player you actually think is a good player? Let me know in the comments if you'd take him. But this is what has been reported by Matt Law today. It's usually quite accurate when it comes to Chelsea news. Noni Madueke is on Arsenal's radar this summer, but the strength of their interest is hard to gauge as they are making checks on numerous players. Chelsea are yet to receive an approach or hold talks with their London neighbours over a move. Now, he might be better than Sterling right now, but this reminds me of that kind of signing. We don't get Rodrigo, and then you don't get Nico Williams, and then you don't get Rafa Leao, and then you realize it's August 30th, and the first 3 games, you've lost one, you've drawn one, you're already 4 or 5 points behind Liverpool and Man City. Panic sets in. Who is available? Chelsea want to sell Madueke. They want 30 million. Arsenal see his age and they're like, he's 23 years of age, good enough for a Saka backup. Let's go and get him. We're going to pay 35 million, and it doesn't work out. That's how it usually ends up being when you don't get all your other targets. And in terms of the winger position right now, I don't think the ball is in our court in any of them. Nico Williams doesn't want to join Arsenal. Rodrigo, we don't know if he wants to leave Real Madrid. We don't know if Real Madrid want to sell him. We haven't heard anything about Lookman and Rafa Leao recently, so there's no signing in terms of a winger that we've been talking about a lot recently. For the striker, we know it's going to be Yakarez or Sesko, hopefully. For the winger, we literally have no idea who it's going to be. But I'm hoping we've learned a lesson from last season and it doesn't end up being that way where you miss out on like 5-6 targets and then you panic, you realize there's only 1 day remaining in the transfer window, and then you go and splash the money on Madueke and then it doesn't work out. That would be disastrous. That is not because from January we've been told we've been keeping our powder dry. I'm trying to believe that surely we are not keeping our powder dry, to pay 30 million for Atkins and pay 30 million, 40 million for Madueke. I'm hoping that is not the case. I'm hoping we're keeping our powder dry to go for players like Viktor Gyokeres, to, go for players like, for me, players like Morgan Rogers, who's been very good the last couple of seasons, go for players like Rodrigo. That is how I'm hoping we've been keeping our powder dry for this kind of players. But it wouldn't be a week at Arsenal without being into a Chelsea play. Actually, we should actually form a game, Who will Arsenal be linked to from Chelsea next week, Nicholas Jackson, maybe, since they've signed Delap. Mudryk, not now. I think Mudryk will be linked to him next year or something. But we always linked to a Chelsea player. And we've even been linked to Nkunku. We did a show early and someone said, don't be surprised if you don't get Yakarez and Sesko and you end up getting Nkunku. That's another one. It seems like there's so many Chelsea options right now. You have to think that surely Arsenal is going to get at least one of them, which is not a great feeling because most of the times it doesn't work whenever we get players from Chelsea. So his numbers, if you just talk about the player himself, he played against us when he was at PSV. Remember, it was him, Gakpo, and Xavi Simons. They beat us that season, I think, in the Europa League, and Madueke is very good in that game. Ever since joining Chelsea, though, there's a lack of consistency. Like last season, he started and scored a hat-trick against Wolves, and then goes months without scoring. I think overall last season, he had I don't want to count the Conference League goals in games and assists and all that. I think that is You wouldn't really say, because Nkunku scored a lot of goals in the Conference League last season. If you're just looking at the Conference League, you would buy Nkunku today. But I don't like looking at that competition because of the teams that they were playing. So I just decided to look at the league. He scored like 7 goals last season and 3 or 4 assists or something like that. And if you look at the previous season, it was only 5 goals and 3 assists. So there's a lack of consistency there. That would be another player who you're bringing and hoping that he would change his form and change his the way his career has been going the last couple of seasons and improve at Arsenal. No, that is not what we're looking for right now. Right now, we're looking for players who are ready, players who've been scoring goals over the last 2-3 years, players who are ready to come in and slot in right away and play that position and improve our team right away. Now, I know Madueke would not be starting for us, it'd be a backup. But again, even Sterling, we signed him as a backup for Saka, and then Saka got injured, and then you don't really trust your backup. You have to also trust your backups. You cannot neglect those positions. Just say, okay, Saka is going to play every single game. We don't really need the backup to play too many games. No, Saka got injured for 4 months, and then we needed a backup, and he didn't have one. You have to have backups there that you trust that you would play if that player is injured, Kudus is also, I'm hearing Kudus could be sold by West Ham. They want around 50 million. If you have Kudus on the bench, I don't think it's wise to go for a backup for Saka before going for a striker and a left winger. Those should be your first 2 signings. But if you have the money and you have Kudus as a backup, if Saka needs to be rested, you'd be like, okay, yeah, Kudus absolutely fine for the next 2 games. You can play him. If Saka is not delivering on the pitch and you need someone to come off the bench, you can trust someone like a Kudus to come in. If even Rodrigo, if he's there, can play on the right side. You can trust a player like that, If you need someone to add to the team to play next to the striker and to Havertz, to Odegaard, to Saka, someone to help out from the bench, you can bring on someone like a Kudus and you'd be like, okay, I don't know if you would, Arsenal fans, all of us, I don't know if you would be confident that, okay, today there's no Saka and there's no Odegaard. We have Noni filling in for Odegaard, great player, but we also have Madueke coming in on the right side. Would you be really, happy with that? I don't think so. You have to also look at the teams you're playing and the teams you're competing with. Liverpool can take off Luis Diaz and bring on Jota. They have players, they really have top players up front, and we've not mentioned Gakpo and Salah and all these guys, and they're going to add to it next season. They could afford to take off Gakpo and bring on Vats to slot in that number 10 position. They can have Gakpo coming on the left side for Luis Diaz if he's still there, and there's other players that they're linked to. So you need players who can come on and you feel like, okay, this is good. You can't do that for every single position because you're going to need to spend money, but I want us to have feel like, okay, Timber is not there, Ben White is there. That is good. I think we're happy with that. I want us to feel like, okay, if Calafia is not there, Lewis Skelly is there, absolutely fine. Declan Rice is not there, we can have Zubimendi playing there for this game, no problem. That has to be the case for almost every single position. You don't feel like if Saka is out or if Odegaard is out, the world is ending. We don't want to feel that way. So you have to also not just neglect that position. And there's a lot of other wingers that you can go for. If you're looking for a winger who's going to cost you 15 million, 20 million, you can go for Kubo from Sociedad. You can go and try and get players like Bakayoko from PSV. Those are still players that you can get. Those are still players that that would do the job for you. Doesn't really have to be. And if Chelsea are willing to give him Madueke, you also have to ask yourself questions. That's just it. So, and by the way, I don't think he's totally crap player. No, I just don't think is what we are looking for right now. But yeah, Arsenal are linked to Noni Madueke, another Chelsea player. We haven't even signed Kepa yet. This time we might go for 2. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Next up, what's the latest on Yakarez? According to Alex Crook, I had a message 24 hours or so ago suggesting that Viktor Yakarez has told friends and family that he expects to join Arsenal. Arsenal are juggling both him and Benjamin Sesko, but at the moment, I would say Yakarez looks the more likely. Juggling, like we're just like this, trying to figure out who you're going to get. I don't think we've not made a decision on who we want to get. I think it's just about money. We're just waiting for the one who's going to be slightly cheaper and better for the financial structure of the team, both in terms of fee and wages and agent fees, all that. We are looking for the one who's going to be a better deal. If Sesko ends up wanting Leipzig end up wanting 85 million for Sesko, and then Gyokeres becomes available for 60, I think we are going to end up getting Yakarez. But if Yakarez Sporting say they want 80 and Sesko goes down to like 70, we are going to get Sesko. That is how I feel. I think it's about the money and who which deal would be better? I think that is what Arsenal is waiting for. I don't think you're going to finalize a striker signing right now. I think it's going to be something that is going to carry over until next month, unfortunately. Hopefully, though, we do end up getting at least one of them. We cannot finish this transfer window without any of these guys, because the moment you start hearing that, there's a bit of talks on Vlahovic and Watkins and this, you start feeling like, okay, do they think they're not going to get any of them? And if you end up getting Watkins this transfer window, I said I'm not going to be happy, because you might as well just have got him back in January. We said we're not going to spend that money on him because you're keeping our powder dry for the summer transfer window. The summer transfer window is here. You cannot just go back and then you just sign Watkins. You might as well just have signed him in January, then pay that 40 million. Maybe you'd have ended up going further in the Champions League, maybe to the final with that striker there. So we have to go for the big signings that we want. Man City went for Haaland, treble the very same season. So you have to go for the big players if you want the big results. So that's the latest on Yakarez. Next up, Thomas Partey. We talked about him in the earlier stream. Thomas Partey is expected to leave Arsenal as negotiations of a new deal are at a standstill. A source has told ESPN Partey will leave the club on June 30th. This is according to Martin Moreto. So there is a lot of journalists today and in the know accounts saying that it looks like Partey is going to leave. So hey, it's now starting to look like there's a big chance. I'm still going to say it's 50-50, but the odds are not looking good unless Partey decides to settle for what Arsenal offered him, or Arsenal decide last minute that, okay, maybe you're not going to get a midfielder, or maybe whatever we are trying to do in terms of changing up and playing Rice as a 6 and maybe getting a new number 8. If they feel like that is not possible, then they might go for, they might decide to keep Partey for another season. Hopefully, though, now, if we lose both Jorginho and Partey, it's going to need to be a very, very quick settling period for Zubimendi. He has to be ready from the first game. All those fixtures, we'd have to... He's a player who's played big games, but the English tempo is obviously always a bit worrisome. You never know. Top players have come from different countries and they come to the Premier League and, it becomes a challenge. But I'm hoping, I'm confident he is going to settle, but it's going to have to be from day one now. If you're not going to have Jorginho or Partey, unless we have plans of moving Rice back to the number 6. Listen, if you're moving back Rice to the number 6 and then you're going to buy Eze or Rodgers to play as the number 8, I might be able to handle the blow a little bit better. But, if you're letting Partey go, all of a sudden you need a number 6 unless you have plans for that number 8 position. I'm just so interested to see how our team will look after this transfer window, because we cannot mess up again at all. Anything we decide to do, whether it's in terms of changing the formation or changing the roles of a few players like Rice or Lewis Skelly, whoever we decide to get rid of, whether it's Partey or Martinelli or Trossard or Kivio, whoever we decide to let go of, hopefully we do have a plan, because it's a big season coming up, big season for everyone. Next up, Lewis Skelly. Fabrizio says all documents are now ready for Myles Lewis Skelly to sign his new contract at Arsenal. That is fantastic news. Lewis Skelly will be an Arsenal player for next season and many more seasons to come. What a player he is, man. He's absolutely incredible. As I've just said, we might change the roles of Rice next season, but we might also see Lewis Skelly in some new positions. We might see him back in midfield if we don't get a replacement for Partey, and if Zinchenko leaves, because Zinchenko is a guy who always goes into midfield and does a job whenever he plays. So how will Lewis Skelly cope as well? Which position will be the best for him? I think if Calafiori is very, very fit, I think Calafiori would start at left back and then we'd use Lewis Skelly in the midfield areas. But because there's a bit of injuries there with Calafiori, would also want to protect him from getting any more injuries. So let's see how it goes. But that's the latest on Gyokeres, Partey, Lewis Skelly, and Noni Madueke. What do you make of that? Would you take Noni Madueke at Arsenal as a backup for Saka? Let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next one.